Have you checked the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And Jaime and Fuego.
And here we are at the end of the road for now for our Locke Key comic book reviews. Now, we have done the first 6 full volumes of the series. That is the series proper, as it were. But since that series wrapped up, there have been 4 one-shot issues that have come out in the Locke Key universe. And
let it go.
only one of the stories, well, technically one of the little tiny half stories, had to do with the Locke family as well. But basically the rest is just kind of fun backstory stuff with the Keys and other owners of the houses and everything. So we're going to go through these like we did all the other volumes. But first off, let's talk about our overall thoughts. Now, this is 4 separate stories. This doesn't have to do with the Locks proper. This doesn't have to do with the Locks proper. This doesn't have to do with the Locks proper. And half of this doesn't have to do with the Locks proper. But all of them I still very much enjoyed, each for different reasons. What's really fun about these for me is that these are the best kind of one-off episodes in a long-running series. You know, like for Buffy, for example, there was the Zeppo episode that focused specifically on Xander for a whole episode. You know, it's that kind of stuff where you can really take an entire issue and focus on, you know, a family that we don't really know, but what we've seen in passing for maybe a scene when the Locke children were looking into the past of the house, and we get one of the most emotionally impactful stories of the entire series. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's one of the best ones right there in front that you were showing.
So I loved these. My overall thoughts are these are amazing, just for different reasons than the actual series proper was. How about you, Fuego?
Yeah, it's much of the same. You know, I've contended a lot that there is so much that, you know, can be expounded upon with what, like 250 something years of potential history nearly that they can delve from, you know, Benjamin all the way to the current Locke family that, you know, shows up. And the fact that we get 2 specific iterations, you know, one is early 1900s and then another one I think is just the generation immediately before, like late 1800s, and you know, just the different versions of those families and stuff, and yet it's still so heartfelt, and still like the knowledgeability throughout the family was one thing that I found interesting, and how they can just make amends with that, and the fact that, you know, adults, I guess when adults leave the property, that's when they forget about the magic. And so since they were all still residing there, like the whole family of all of these respective families are involved in these 2 time periods, and the knowledge, the key creation, all the different things, that's it's definitely a different dynamic than with, you know, Rendell being passed away, and then, you know, the mother really having 0 donuts for a clue, you know, what is really going on at this house. You know, Duncan knows a little bit, he has recollections and feelings and stuff, but yeah, I overall love these, and I can't wait to see more exploration from these different time periods in the family.
So we're going to go through these in chronological order, not for order of when the comics came out, because they came out in this order, but it's not actually, it doesn't take place in this order. Small World is actually first.
Yes.
So this is the first time we really get to focus on Chamberlain Locke and his family. And what's fun about this one is there is a dollhouse in the Locke house, and at this point, this might have actually been a gift made specifically for this daughter, right? And so there is a dollhouse. It was a
birthday present.
Yeah, it was a birthday present, and there's a dollhouse key that basically, when that happens, you can start putting things into the dollhouse, and it'll actually put things in real life into the house. So what happens in the dollhouse happens in the real house. What happens in the real house happens in the dollhouse.
Because all locks turn both ways, which is one thing that they even mentioned in this story again, and that's because of the fact that the dollhouse is, in fact, a representation of things going on in the actual house, because at one point early on, the father tells his older daughter, who has just had the birthday, that she can spy on her 2 brothers in it, you know, and so it's it's like that dueling dynamic of, you know, you can have small things in there and something that is in fact enlarged that is at one point in the dollhouse, and that creates our conflict.
But just to show kind of how it works, so you see one of the daughters here, the younger one, is picking a winner, so to speak, and then she's, you know, staring at the dollhouse while the other two aren't looking, and then suddenly in the main house a giant booger smacks against the wall. And so that's kind of the relationship, and this is, of course, this is also written by Joe Hill and artwork once again by Gabriel Rodriguez, just like the series proper, colored by J Photos, exactly. And so yeah, we see that the whole family, you know, talks together and hangs out together, and there's one of the sons here that unfortunately has a medical issue that we don't know everything about, but that's Ian Ulysses Locke, and there's something about him. He's kind of a special boy, but you see that the shadow creatures are all around, so you know, all the Locks in this household, like Fuego said, know what's up with the keys, and they all use them.
Yep, and on Harlan, right?
Harlan, yeah.
Yeah, so he's the one wearing that crown, and so when you have somebody who is kind-hearted and, you know, is doing right things and isn't using them for mischievous means, then yeah, you can use all those shadow creatures and whatever, as they are at various points in this, to aid them, as opposed to like what Dodge does to, you know, do some ill shizzle. So, but
that's so this is kind of the crux of the story right here, where the young daughter steals the key, opens it up, and then ends up pulling her father down the stairs in his bathtub. Yeah. And then, but Harlan calls her away, and she doesn't shut the door as this giant black spider ends up crawling across the house. And unfortunately for those inside the house, there is now a giant effing spider inside the actual house.
And so for creature fans like you and myself, then this was really cool.
It becomes, you know, literally a hunt. And it's funny, all the adults get taken out, and it's down to the kids and their control of the shadow creatures in order to save the day. And it's really cool because since this came out afterwards, this fit obviously means a lot more after the fact, but unfortunately you see that Ian,
as it does, and
is trying to take care of the spider, and then he has a fit, and the crown drops off, so all the creatures disappear, and it becomes a bit of a dire situation. But, you know, that's the thing. It's a nice little one-shot adventure. I don't want to show everything, how it resolves and everything.
It resolves in an interesting fashion. It really, really does.
But it's a great little one-off issue, just showing, again, the fun and games of Locke and Key, or the Locke House or Key House, and all of the locks and keys and what they do. And the entirety of the family. And older sister goes pure badass in this at the end, which is really cool. Well, and I'm very happy with what saves the day at the very end. Oh, of course you would. Which is actually the youngest sister. She makes amends for what she did by, you know, bringing that particular creature, I guess, you know, to you know, go head to head. So that was Locke and Key Small World. Here, let me take it out again so you guys can see the actual cover. And there's a really great hardcover that they put out, which is a deluxe edition of this that has you know, additional interviews, script stuff, like script to page to, you know, like pencils to print, and, you know, coloring, all this different stuff. And it actually has photos of Joe and Gabe in Massachusetts, like going around on the actual spots that they scouted and took shots of, you know, to actually build a lot of this stuff, because Gabriel Rodriguez had never been to Massachusetts. You know, he just connected with Joe Hill when Joe was initially trying to break into the comics industry, and he was like, I dig this story, I'm down to work on it with you. And just for them, after the series was finished, to finally go to some of those spots, and some of the photos and the bonus content are very funny, and yes, it's heartwarming as well. So the next one in the chronological series would be Locke and Key Guide to the Known Keys. And this is really cool because this balloon was actually featured in one of the stained glass windows of the actual Key House in the main series proper. Now, and the story itself is called, right at the front, something Moon. Oh, or actually at the very end, it's Under the Moon. Right up front. Actually, it's at the very end. No, sorry, I couldn't remember. All right, hang on. Way to stall us out, Fuego. I wasn't trying to, but this is what it's listed in the trade, where it's all like together. Open the Moon. Open the Moon. Yeah, Open the Moon. And yeah, because this is collected in
Oh boy, do we have the hardcover? I think we do right up here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes,
So
go ahead
the
and show
next-
this just
so-
real quick,
yeah, so-
since we just finished it.
Yeah,
So,
so
that's
so
the
that's the
hardcover
one that I
there.
was
And
mentioning.
you said that it's got some script pages at the back, right? So
Yeah.
show some of that. That's
Indeed.
only in that.
So it's funny to see like alternate covers and even like real life versions of things that they did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you can see the actual key there, which is pretty dope, and you know, pencils. But this is one of the coolest bits, from script to page, and from script to page is notes back and forth, like in in literal notebooks between Gabe and Joe, where it just shows their process, and there's actually some like very borderline storyboarding kind of things, you know, right there in the upper left. And last but not least, the one thing that really warmed my heart, and genuinely, I think it's a little bit ahead, was some of those photos that I had meant. Also got you know, spider cover craziness on top of the house. That's really dope.
I think you're thinking about a different trade.
Damn, perhaps I am.
Yeah, you are.
Perhaps I am. Well, that's fine. Sorry, guys.
All right, so this one is once again about Chamberlain Locke and his family, but it's much more intimate than that. It's very specifically about Chamberlain Locke and his son Ian, who we find out actually has a brain tumor.
Yeah.
And so he does not do well, and he constantly has these fits, just like he did in that other issue. And his dad, all he can do is, you know, tell him, I'm here for you, I'm here for you.
Albeit this being written 6 years before the issue we were
Right.
just talking about. Yeah, so.
Right, so it's this whole back and forth that they have is Ian knows that the Locks are adventurers, and he knows that there's these keys, and he knows one of the Locks created the keys, and every Lock has an adventure, and he's like, he's bummed that he will never, you know, he can't have an adventure because he's so ill. And he can only look at things from his window. And so his dad feels awful. So his dad goes and talks to Harlan Locke, who is another Locke as well, but obviously by marriage or something. but yeah, they do actually refer to him as a Locke here.
Oh, they do.
And so they ask, you know, Chamberlain asks Harlan, do you have any more Whispering Iron? Because he wants to make one more key. And so what happens is right here, the family all comes down and they bring down Ian for the first time to go on an adventure, and they have a balloon set up for them to go. And so the whole family kind of says goodbye, have a good time. All his siblings say, you know, oh, I'm jealous. I wish I was going up there with you, you know. And then his mom says something, you know, kind of cryptic. She says basically goodbye. And she's a lot more sad than the kids know to be.
Yeah, and the kids even ask her, they're like, Mom, why are you so sad? You know, they even inquire about it, you know, the other three siblings. And then it gets up to some of the most beautiful, like, this is storytelling for me that was as heartwarming yet wrenching and beautiful and bittersweet as the end of Volume 6 proper.
Yeah.
Honestly.
This was, yeah, I think I even mentioned, I don't know if it was on the review or after when we were talking, but this issue is the most emotional Locke and Key issue since that series, for sure.
Easily.
And it's so powerful. So he takes his son all the way up to the moon and uses this key. The thing is, reality bends around these magical keys. That's the whole point. So the moon actually does have a lock, and they open the moon, and they go here, which is what Chamberlain ends up calling life's backstage.
Yeah.
And so from up here, Ian can literally use his telescope and look anywhere in the world and see what's going on, rather than being stuck from the one window in Key House.
Yeah.
And so he looks at a bunch of people in the Old West watching one of the earliest motion pictures. He has conversations with his father.
Goes to Japan and sees the
Yep.
funeral. Yeah,
Sees
the
the
last
massive
great poet
funeral.
king. Yeah.
And then some of the other people from the backstage, from the downstairs that he was curious about, start to arrive, and it's family members from the past.
Yeah.
And he starts talking to them, and he actually starts telling his dad, he's like, you know what's funny? I don't have a headache up here. It's strange. It's the first time in forever, and first time in 6
months,
years,
yeah.
or 6 months, right,
Yeah.
that I haven't had a headache. And so all these people, all the family members that he's never been able to meet, come up and start greeting him.
Yeah.
And not only that, but Harlan gets to see his wife, from all the way back. And so Ian basically asks his father, can I stay? Or he says, I love it up here. And his father says, you can stay.
He suggests he can stay. Yeah. And then Harlan's like, I'm going to stay too, actually. There's some people I haven't seen in a great long time, and you're assuming a wife or something. And I mean, this is a story that seems so inspired by his father's story, which is called The Reach. It's collected in Skeleton Crew, and it's about this woman who goes across the ice for the first time ever from the island she spent her entire 90 plus years on. And when she's walking across, she sees all of her old friends and her husband and all of these people who have long been not around. And obviously, if you're seeing people in the Locke family that are this old, these are apparitions, ghost spirits, whatever it may be. And it's so chilling, but not scary. It's just profound and powerful. And man, this is my favorite, as I will contend.
It's just
of
gorgeous.
It's
It's again, the whole series proper was essentially boiled down to a family, and specifically a son, having to learn to deal with the death of their father. And this is very much a father having to learn to deal with the death of a child.
Yeah, the flip side of the coin.
And it's
losing
just
your son.
so impactful. And then it leads to this thing at the back, right, where you see that there is the guide to the known keys. That's the whole point. So you see the Omega key, and there's no info there, but you see the ghost key, the head key, or I'm sorry, the echo key rather. And then over here you have the anywhere key, the head key, the gender key, the crown of shadows key, the giant key, the mending key.
And the interesting thing is that you see at the beginning that they're journal inserts from different people.
They start to change. Yeah,
starts out with Benjamin.
Starts
and
with Benjamin, and then right here jumps to Harlan. So the black gentleman in these last two issues is the one that starts recording. So you see the animal key, the music box key, the gender or the skin key, the chain key,
which with him makes sense, right? I didn't even think about that till just now, with him being the one who would put those together, man.
And then there's
Gene, I want to say, right?
So this one is actually from Chamberlain. So this is from this side's from Harlan, this side's from Chamberlain, and then there's another
together.
Locke here, Gene Locke. Yeah,
and Gene, I think, is the one who was in the other story with the Grindhouse,
which we'll get to in just a second.
Yeah.
So the Angel key, the Philosophoscope key, and the Hercules key, and then we see that the newest entries on the graph paper are from Bodhi Locke.
Yeah.
And you see the Bitey key, the Splody key, and the right here it's the Reala key, because it shows Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez.
Something just clicked in my head. The Bitey key is used in the next story. It didn't.
You didn't put that.
I did not. Well, no, because in the trade, the one that collects these volumes that we have right over there, this one, this hardcover. So this hardcover collects the Open the Moon story, the next story that we're about to talk about, Grindhouse, and then it also has in the can, which is really just like 6 pages, not too consequential, but. As I was reading Grindhouse, the next one we're going to talk about, there's a end that comes to a particular character, and I'm like, what the hell did that key come from? And we have the reasoning for it in the writings of Bodhi. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
so there we go.
So the next part in that
clicked.
trade is this issue here, which is Locke and Key Grindhouse. And this is very much the goriest of all of the issues. It's actually that's not true. It might not be the goriest, but it does have sort of the most horror tropes. This is just a one-off story where it's not unlike...
I would contend it's the most aggressive in subject matter.
It's not unlike Exit to Hell or even the upcoming Voorhees, where it's a group of thieves. It's a group of thieves that are looking to escape after a score, but the boat is coming to the harbor at Key House. And so they have to hole up a Key House, and they decide that they're going to try... bless you.
Oh, your cats.
They're going to try and rob Key House before they leave.
Because there's one guy who used to work as a groundskeeper there who was part of this trio of robbers from Toronto who are all pretty much French-Canadian.
Right off the bat that they're just going for it, and it's a very pulpy look to this issue. It looks very much like the old pulp comics. Still done by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez, just like the last issue as well.
Yeah, but
this is Gabriel
totally different, man.
Striking out and doing something. I mean, you can still tell that it's him at the core of it, but it's just really, really neat. And so you see that the current family, that's the family of Jean, right? And her the two sons, and their dog. And
So I'm assuming, Gene.
So yeah, we're all assuming. It makes the most sense.
Yeah.
But basically, these thugs show up and are like, "Hey, you're gonna take care of us," and then they're really, really rude, and so they want to have these women show them around the house because they fully intend to take advantage, and they're gonna leave their third guy here to watch over the kids and the seemingly pushover husband.
Yeah, who is not a Locke. We're assuming he married into the family.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But it doesn't go necessarily well for them, and so one of them, the real aggressive one, ends up going with this girl who uses the gender key and crawls into a cabinet. He follows her into the cabinet. Meanwhile, this other one goes ahead and acts like she's about to open this door with that grindhouse key. But
And she even
or
talks
the bitey key, rather.
Yeah, and she even talks about her father or grandfather, I forget which one, actually getting those blades from the guy from Japan who they're burying, and the previous one we were talking about. So, yeah.
And then this third guy trying to chase down the kids end up luring him to the ghost door, which we all know very well what the ghost door is. Meanwhile,
first issue.
This robber crawls out of the gender cabinet with huge knockers and starts getting beat up by the sister that is now a man, and like basically turns the tables tremendously on him.
Yeah, based on what he was trying to do to her and what she now as a man is contending to do to Sure, or whatever you want to say.
And then just real quick, you'll see the results of the bitey key and then the ghost key. And so things just don't go well for this trio of robbers.
As they shouldn't. But,
And
you know.
it's just super fun. I know we kind of showed you the whole thing on this one, but it's still worth owning, you guys. It's so much fun. And then at the back of this is something that's not in the back of the trade.
Which is a real bummer, and it makes you, if you're a completist and you want all of that supplemental material, it's
gotta buy them both for now.
Not collected in this, although this is really cheap. It's like $10-12, you know, and you get 3 stories in it.
But this is the guide to the key house. And so on the back, or from there on, it's, once again, it is Gabriel Rodriguez doing the layout and then Joe Hill putting his notes down for things that he didn't even realize. So Key House is, 4 stories high, and so they do every single level, just like when you're searching for a house or apartment, you get the layouts, and they do it all, and they tell where exactly everything is, and then they have a wonderful, by the way,
all 4
this just
sides
shows
of the
how
property.
good Key House looks on the Netflix series, because it looks exactly like this. It's crazy. And then the well house, of course, at the back. So, and then at the very back of both this one and the other one, they had something fun that was just Kinsey's Comic Corner. So Kinsey from the thing. It doesn't, they don't have to do with the story or anything. They're just little comics, but they put it under Kinsey's Comics Corner, and those are not in the trade. So
either. Yeah, it's single page.
It's fun to have these for that. And that's going to lead us to the 4th issue. But actually, before we do that, let's do the mini story here. So this one is called, what is this one? In the Can.
Yeah.
So this is just, once again, it's a return to the Locke children, but it's before all of the massive events. So it's somewhere in the middle of the story, and they're just exploring the woods around Key House, and Bodhi has to make a poopy. And so he
I gotta go number 2.
he just goes, and what he finds is an outhouse, and he finds the IDW key. So IDW, if you didn't know, is the company that actually puts out these comics. So IDW right there.
IDW.
That's the company, just like DC or Marvel, these are IDW. And so this key has IDW down there where the actual, parts of the key are normally there, And so when he opens it, what we see are just a bunch of IDW creations. And I know what most of these are. There's a couple that I don't, but that is Wormwood Gentleman Corpse. These are vampires from the 30 Days of Night series. This is a killer snowman. I don't remember what he's from, but he's from something. And then this is an alien by the name of Archibald that smokes cigarettes from a series called Groom Lake, which Groom Lake is where Area 51 is. So that's what that's about. And then he shuts the door and he reopens it, and then he gets to see G.I. Joe characters and Tank Girl, who are also under the IDW banner. And then he shuts the door again and opens it one more time, but then gets called away. And the last thing we see is one of the giant killer robots from the Zombies versus Robots IDW series.
Wow.
So they're all
That's a
from
cover,
something.
I'm assuming, is right
It's
here?
well, it's a throwback cover to it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an art. That's the art style of the Zombies versus Robots art style. Yeah.
Okay. So that's Bodhi then, and now we get what I was talking about earlier, which is the
Right.
Photos of Joe and.
So this is what
Gabe and
actual.
all of
Here's
them.
the funny thing about what they did with Keyhole, or this is Lovecraft rather.
Mm-hmm.
So you see what they did here is in the actual picture, the circular sort of smoother part is in the middle, and the jagged part is in the end. But they reversed it here. So the jagged part is in the middle, and the smooth part is at the end. They just kind of did a reversal for the comic book. But yeah, then you see all these different places around the actual Lovecraft, Massachusetts, where Joe and Gabriel went. They have a giant key there, obviously.
It's cool.
It's fun stuff that you can go through when you're going through this. So, and then a little bit of artwork towards the back with keys by Israel Skelton, who did all those keys back there on my wall as well. He's the one behind Skeleton Crew Studios, so he made all of those keys. And then, just some artwork. This is the artwork for the giant library volumes.
Yep, pencils and the finalized version.
And the final colors. So
Yes.
that's going to lead us to the final issue, which has not been collected anywhere yet.
But it
This
probably
just
will
came
be.
out last year. And this is called Locke Key Dog Days. But this is actually two different stories. So this is Dog Days and I think it's called... Nailed It. Yeah, the last one's called Nailed It.
Nailed
So,
It.
all right. So the first one deals with these two brothers. Once again, the two brothers and their dog from the Grindhouse book.
Exactly.
But this came out long enough after Grindhouse that I didn't remember that. And it starts off just you see the animal door there. With the animal key being used, and you see this is again the format that he used in one of the issues of the Locke and Key series proper.
Yeah, I believe it was in Clockworks, if I'm not mistaken. Number
Yeah, it
5.
might have been.
Yeah, it was
where
the
he's
one
got the
Bodhi-
splash page on every page, and then 4 actual panels on every one. So it's the two brothers and this other kid who's very weird and whose tongue is always sticking out and just says weird stuff like he wants to. Smell a dude's butt and eat
I wonder
his,
if the mailman's
or,
butt smells
Yeah.
like lunch.
and he's like, sometimes I like to eat my own vomit. I'll even eat yours,
We don't
and
have
it's
to eat
just
mine.
really weird stuff. He's drinking out of the toilet here, which obviously should have been a big tip off for me.
And then they're like, "No, you should use a glass if you're drinking." And he uses the glass to drink that.
And so it's just boys hanging out during the summer in Lovecraft and look, you get the little cave way down there, even though it's not consequential.
Yeah, it's the same panel styling as that first issue of Clockworks where Bodhi was changing into the bird and stuff, and it was very Calvin and Hobbesy kind of thing. It's cool.
And then you see that, yes, this was indeed their dog, who they just put through the animal door and was hanging out with as a human for a while. But the funny thing is the end, where they're having this back and forth. They're like, yeah, he wouldn't work as a human. He's too stupid, and he just doesn't know things, and, he couldn't do homework or chores. And they're like, wait a minute. And so the very next panel, you see that there's 3 dogs running away
All
from the house.
3 of them, yeah.
So it's just such a wonderful little story. I absolutely love that.
It's super cute.
Now, this next story is the one that ties directly into the main series proper. This is the epilogue of sorts to Locke and Key
Well,
with
even
the Locke
beyond
family.
epilogue, I'm assuming it's a prologue for a new story.
True.
Yeah.
Well, it looks to be a while later. So this is the foundation of Key House after it's been, spoilers, burned down at the end of Volume 6.
You got Dunk
And
there.
you got Duncan there working to try and build the door frame. And you see Tyler is also there, but he's doing something of his own. And
Looking a lot older once we finally get a good look at him too.
indeed, so he digs this little hole and he puts this lock there. And then apparently there's this giant key that he and presumably he and Duncan have made that he just straight up drops into the keyhole and turns it, and all of a sudden magically this building starts to appear, and of course we see the rest of the locks here with him watching. And this is just so simple. You see Duncan amazed, you see Kinsey cheering,
Bodhi's
you see the
looking a little
mom
older.
and Bodhi just kind of sucking on a lollipop, and they're all like, what the hell? And then boom, just like that, Key House is back.
Yeah.
And so that's...
I love what he says right there, too.
Yeah, it just says, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
And it's just such a really wonderful little story. And again, as an epilogue or prologue to another story, I don't know what's going to happen with the Locke family. It's so nice that they can go back, though. Because at the end of the series, presumably we were like, oh, that's the end. All we can get are these past tales. And then, boom, they nailed it. And now the future's all open. They can continue. So even Locke and Key World War Keys, or whatever it's going to be, we think that's going to be
or whatever.
Yeah, the one it was going to be called Battleground originally, but... that's going to still be a prequel, I believe, but now we know that there is a possibility for a straight-up sequel.
Yes,
so it's exciting, right?
Indeed. Oh, it's massively exciting, man, because that is the, like, just richness of this world, is the fact that, yeah, it's almost like nothing has to have finality, and I know that's the essence of comic books. No one's ever completely dead, you know, whatever, but yeah, there's just so many different directions they could go with this, I think, and I can't wait to see what the hell happens, man.
So are you, how do you feel now after having completed everything that we've got so far for Locke and Key?
I'm sad there's not more to read. That's genuine honesty at this particular point, and, you know, wherever Joe goes with it, whether it's, you know, jumping backwards, looking ahead, I think it's going to maintain the consistency of quality that we had through the entire book. And, like, nothing ever really dipped for me. Even in these one-shots, I mean, yeah, maybe, you know, there's more stories of whimsy and silliness, and they're just, like, a little more forgettable, but I still even love those. So, yeah, more power to the guy and the entire creative team here.
Indeed. So I think that's going to do it for our 7th and, for now, final review of the Locke and Key comic book series. So let us know in the comments down below, what did you think of the issues that we showed you? Sorry if we spoiled a couple of them, but, you know, we just showed the panels real quick. You guys are definitely going to want to go and get them yourselves so you can actually read through them, whether it's in those hardcover trades or whatever have you. Go and seek them out. They're very worth it. It's only 4 issues. It can't be too pricey on eBay, so definitely worth your time. But yeah, that's going to do it, you guys. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this Locke and Key review series, let us know in the comments down below. Besides this, there's the review of the Netflix series, obviously, a review of the Fox pilot, an interview with Jay Photos, the color artist, and a lot of stuff coming. Hopefully we can nail down Gabriel Rodriguez for the interview as well. So lots of cool stuff coming, but that's going to do it for now, you guys. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias, I've been Jaime and Fuego.
Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel that way. But remember, guys, stay scared.